Hello there folks, and welcome back to another video. In this one we're going to be having a look at the new Treachery of Gollum supplement for the Middle-earth strategy battle game, and the second one of the new edition of the Middle-earth strategy battle game as well, from the folks at Games Workshop. This one works similarly to what we saw with the War of the Rohirrim one, in that it has a series of narrative scenarios in there which are designed for you and a couple of friends, or just one friend, or just yourself if you wanted to do solo, to dive in and just have some fun playing the game, not having to worry about match play stuff, and having a little bit of fun with the hobby side of things at the same time as well. So it also came alongside the brand new miniatures, so of course we had another new one for Gollum and another one for Shelob, and this is a perfect opportunity for you to get those miniatures and use them as part of this game. So Treachery of Gollum covers the story of Gollum, if you would believe it. You get a really nice selection of stuff in here as part of the narrative scenarios, the linked campaign rules, the painting and hobby guide, and more stuff as well. So you'll see that as we flick through it. We start off with the campaign rules here. So if you wanted to link together your various missions, starting with the path of Cirith Ungol and ending with the bravery of Master Samwise, as you can see there of the other side, you'll be able to basically dive in and follow this through. And it has specific rules for what happens if good or evil win different scenarios, and sort of where you go from there, which is quite nice. So a nice little selection of different options there for you to choose from if you're looking to link things together and tell Gollum's story as a cohesive part. We start off with a fun one, which is a little bit different because it doesn't actually involve Gollum, and this is the Paths of Cirith Ungol. So this is where we get the good side going up against Shelob, and the idea is that you use the sort of tile-based layout of the webs of Cirith Ungol and the passageways that you go through. And on one side you have Shelob, on the other side you have a series of orcs, so you get a Mordor orc captain, 12 Mordor orc warriors, 4 with shields, 4 with spears, 2 with two-handed weapons, and 2 with orc bows. And they have to try and get off the other side of the board whilst things are shifting and moving around, and Shelob is sneaking around between the tunnels and attacking them. It essentially lasts until there are no good models left on the board, so they can all get off the other side, they win. If Shelob manages to kill everybody, of course, then, well, Shelob wins, of course. And you have some nice little special rules in there for sort of playing around with that, which is quite nice. And it does also come with a set of rules at the bottom, as you can see here. So if you make a 120-point list of any of the different forces, they could also try and get through Cirith Ungol, which I think is quite fun. So it's a nice little way for you to play around with all the different miniatures in your collection and see which of them can outrun Shelob the Nasty in your games, which is quite nice. Next up is the Taming of Smeagol. This is a small one that takes place on a 2x2 board, although I think you could even make it even smaller, to be honest. And the idea is that this is that moment where Frodo and Sam know that they're being watched and hunted, and so they set up a little bit of a trap for Smeagol, or Gollum in this case, I suppose, as well. And so you have the rules for Frodo and Sam sleeping away, and as Gollum gets closer, you roll a dice, and if it sort of comes up with a 6, or it's higher than the distance between them, then they effectively wake up. The whole idea is that you're trying to subdue Gollum, so you have to attack him and take him out. Sting will also allow you to try and subdue him in one go, which is quite cool if you draw Sting on him, which is quite nice. And there's also some things in here for if you draw. So if Sam goes down but you do subdue Smeagol, then it's a draw, and there are different ways for you to do it as well. But the whole idea is that Gollum is trying to take out the hobbits. He doesn't care if he knocks them out or kills them, he just wants the ring. So it's a really fun little scenario for just 3 models, which is really fun. And just goes to show how versatile the Middle-earth strategy battle game range is when it comes to the miniatures and its mechanics. You then move on to the Dead Marshes. So this one follows Frodo and Sam as they travel across the Dead Marshes with Smeagol in tow. You'll have to deal with spectres in the water, which are trying to drag you into it and make you prone as you fall in. There's also a flying ring wraith zooming around the board, as you can see. It acts as a sentry, but if Frodo ever puts the ring on, then it just effectively starts to act as normal and will hunt you down. So it's a really interesting one about manoeuvring and moving and stuff like that. It's definitely one of those games where you could play this solo or cooperatively, I think, and just let the game do a lot of the decision making for you. Maybe just move things as they make sense, which I think is quite nice. But it follows the sentry rules and things like that, so there's lots of fun stuff in there for people to play around with. You then have Osgiliath. This takes place on a 2x4 board or a 4x2 board, whichever way you want to say it. And this is that moment where they've been captured and taken to Osgiliath, and Faramir and the rest of the Gondorian warriors, the warriors of Minas Tirith, are holding off against an attack by the orcs. And as a ring wraith flies overhead, Frodo is nearly succumbs to its willpower and hands the ring over to the ring wraiths. Hopefully that doesn't happen here, and so you'll be trying to make sure that Frodo and Sam get off the board, which is quite cool. There's also some really nice stuff in here for things like captured buildings and reinforcements, so models might come back onto the board and keep fighting. As you can see, you actually get quite a few minis in here, and you get quite a lot of close quarters fighting going on, which I think is really cool and very, very different. And it's a little bit of a breakdown of the sort of larger Osgiliath style games we've seen in the past. For Frodo and Sam, where it sort of breaks down things into a smaller selection of adventures. And the same goes for this next scenario, which is Escape Through the Sewers. So this, again, has you playing as Frodo, Sam and Smeagol. You're trying to make your way through this S-shaped, or 2-shaped, I suppose you'd say, sewer system against hunted by Mordor orcs and things like that. It does actually say that you should try and make this as packed full of terrain as possible as you can. So you get the idea that it's kind of like a lots of cover for the hobbits to hide behind and leap behind and that kind of stuff. So yeah, really fun, and obviously you get the idea of more patrolling orcs popping up and all that kind of thing across the different places on the map. So it's all really fun little, again, I'd say more of a cooperative style game scenario, I think, where you wouldn't necessarily have to play with an evil player. I think you could have a lot of fun with that one, just playing it as two people against the game itself. And just using common sense. You then have one of their card-based scenarios that they've included in here. So this is when Smeagol tries to get Samwise to leave, effectively, putting him in Frodo's bad books. And so you'll have Frodo in the middle, and it's all about revealing your cards and bluffing against the opponent in order to try to get Sam and Gollum and stuff towards Frodo, which I think is really fun. It's a nice little mini game, nice one that you could play with your friends. Maybe at a tournament or something like that, maybe break this out and just have some fun and see where it goes and play around with the card game style affair on the tabletop. You could, of course, just use this as a fun way to do a little bit of downtime during your hobby as you're building all the other elements of this particular setup. You then go back into Shelob's Lair. So this one goes back to Frodo running through the tunnels. It actually uses the same tiles that you had in the Pass of Cirith Ungol, but as you can see here, you can change the layout and things like that as well, which is quite fun. And it's all about Frodo trying to get to the other side and away from Shelob. You then have the Bravery of Master Samwise. So this is the attack on Shelob by Sam. He's got the Light of Arendelle with him, and it's all about you facing down Shelob in the arena, which I think is super cool. And will be fun to see what people do with that one. I think you have a really fun and interesting sort of solo battle report going on with this one as well. Great for people who want to create content on the internet, I would say. Very nice. You then have the End of All Things, which is a little bit of a redo of one of the previous iterations of this, where you have the Battle of the Black Gates going on, whilst also having Frodo and Sam trying to get to the end to throw the ring into Mount Doom. And again, this is very similar to the one that we've seen before as well. For fans of the Middle-earth strategy battle game, this one won't be a surprise to you, but allows you to dive in and have some fun with that. And again, maybe get those old models and have some fun. But yeah, really nice stuff there as well. This then leads into the hobby section. So there's a how to paint Gollum guide in there, which is quite fun. One for painting Shelob, and the webbed version of Frodo in there. You then have the ways that you build Shelob's Lair. So it looks at sort of using big bases of foam, cutting it and that kind of thing, and shaping it into different ways for you to make the different tiles. Breaks down how to make webs, using cut off bits and pieces to create dead orcs and things like that in your lair of Shelob. Also how to make webs there too, which is quite fun, so that's nice. A little showcase of how it all looks when it's all been set up. Bit more for the dead marshes, so how to make the various marshes themselves filled with the dead. Playing around with all sorts of different things like clear resin pours and that kind of stuff to create the dynamic looking battlefield that you see there too. Well, will be familiar stuff to some people, but if you're new to the game and you're new to hobbying and tabletop wargaming, this is the kind of stuff that everyone absolutely loves, because it's a great way to make use of all the fun trash you have in your collection. More ways for you to use the Oscar the Earth wall sections to create the sewer underneath as well. And there's a breakdown of how to do all that. I won't go into too much detail of these because, of course, I want you to go out and get this and support the game and have a look at it. But yeah, a little breakdown of how to do all that. And yeah, that's it. So, the Treachery of Gollum. Is it a good supplement? I would say it is. I would say it's about on par with the one that we had for the War of the Rohirrim. I don't think it's any better. I don't think it's any worse. I think it showcases a brand new miniatures, which is always nice to see. And it's got a really nice hobby section. I think both this hobby section and the one from War of the Rohirrim are really good, and definitely got some in-depth elements to them, which will be fun for people who are setting up interesting scenarios on the tabletop. Talking of the scenarios, has a series of really interesting ones for you to get stuck into, so you can follow these through and tell an interesting tale on the tabletop. Nice to not just have match play stuff be the focus of things. Always good to have people looking at exploring the narrative side of stuff as well with Lord of the Rings. This was interesting because obviously it came out to support a model release at the same time in a weird way. It'll be really fascinating to see where they go next with the supplements, because they've done a War of the Rohirrim one, and then randomly we had the Treachery of Gollum. I guess the next ones are going to be tied to more miniatures releases, I would think, but we'll have to wait and see where they go with that one. But it's relatively expensive, quite thin, will sit on your shelf quite nicely, and effectively once you've got one of these, it's evergreen. You could use it with all sorts of different editions of the game. You don't have to just use it with the new edition. You could use it with older editions as well, and it would work perfectly nicely, I think. And the same goes for previous supplements. They all will work very nicely with the new edition of the game as well, to be honest. So you're not losing out on much there. Maybe we'll get a Hobbit-themed one next. We've had Lord of the Rings, we've had War of the Rohirrim. Maybe the next one will be Hobbit-themed. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, if you're interested in getting more stuff for the Middle-earth strategy battle game, definitely worth checking this out, I think, and picking it up for yourself. As I say, relatively inexpensive. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Share your thoughts on the Treachery of Gollum and what you thought about looking inside it there. Like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. There is an affiliate link to Firestorm Games. Make sure you go and check that out if you want some discounted hobby products for yourself. There's also a Ko-fi link and all sorts of things in there as well. And there's also even memberships too. You can go and watch some of my behind the scenes vlogs if you want to see more of what I'm up to. Talking about all sorts of fun things recently. But there we go. Treachery of Gollum. Worth it? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll talk to you folks very, very soon. Bye for now.